Well, I am super excited to be hitting the water today. Today's fishing trip, like most fishing trips, a lot of times starts right here, and that is the planning stage of the fishing trip. Right now is when I'm kind of thinking about where we're going fishing, what gear and equipment we're going to need, and what type of tackle we're going to be throwing. Another important thing to consider is fishing line. Man, there's a whole host of different types of fishing lines out there. Different colors, different pound weights, different materials. Really, you got 3 or 4 different materials that the vast majority of the fishing lines are made from. And each one has its own unique reason that you'd want to own it or use it for fishing. First off, you've got monofilament line. It's been around forever. If you've fished a few times in your life, you probably have used monofilament line. It is absolutely great for hand fishing, and if you're pulling a bait that's moving through the water where you want it to have a little bit of stretch and a little bit of give. Great for throwing a crankbait, great for throwing something like a spinnerbait, something that you want a little bit of give. A lot of times, that's what you use, a monofilament line. It also is pretty forgiving. Secondly, now you have fluorocarbon. Fluorocarbon is something that was introduced years ago for saltwater, but has become super popular with freshwater fishermen. Now, what's the difference about a fluorocarbon line? Fluorocarbon line is almost completely invisible. It does not absorb any water, and it doesn't hardly stretch. Fluorocarbon line, if you go to set the hook, you rear back and you hit one with fluorocarbon line, it's not hardly stretching. Very little stretch right to the bait. That increases your hookups, but fluorocarbon can be a little harder to use. It has a little more memory, kinks a little bit, crimps in there. If you get a knot and try to pick it out, it's not as forgiving. And then you've got braid. Braided fishing line is something that most fishermen use some form or fashion of braid. And the reason they use it, it is so incredibly strong, and the pound test, meaning the weight, the load that it will hold for the diameter of the line, is really strong, meaning you can make real long casts. It is abrasion resistant, almost no stretch, like fluorocarbon, even more so. When you set the hook, man, they are on there. So that gives you a lot of things to think about when you go fishing next time to try to decide what's the best fishing line for you. Or there's an option to use a combination of two. And that is something that I'm starting to see a whole lot more out in the fishing world, especially with professional fishermen or guides. I see them using a combination of braided fishing line to a leader, and that leader can be mono or fluorocarbon. And I'll tell you what, that's something that's getting more and more popular. One of my good fishing buddies uses this technique a lot. I would consider him an expert at this. And we're gonna catch up with him. We're gonna learn a little bit more about this trend of throwing a braided fishing line to a leader and find out exactly why it works well for him and find out if it might be something that works well for you as well. We're out here today at Taylorsville Lake fishing with my good buddy Bill. Now Bill, I've noticed for a couple years now, a lot of times we go out fishing, in most applications, I see you throwing a braided line to a leader. Tell me exactly why you do that and what type of knot do you like to tie to join the two lines together?
It took me a while to find the right knot and the right combination, but it saves you line. The braid can last a year, turn it over, last another year. You may go through one quality spool of fluorocarbon a year.
You can literally flip the bail on this, take a new reel, run it in the eyelets, and literally reel it off of one reel right onto the next. And what you've done is you've taken the outside line that you've been casting and throwing, you've reeled it onto the back of the spool, and now you're casting the line that was on the bottom of the spool. Right. It's never been used. It's brand new.
Never been used.
So you can literally get 2 years pretty easily out of a good thing of braided line.
Oh, easy. And you can use just, instead of using multiple spools, a very costly fluorocarbon, one spool a year, 200-yard spool can last you a year.
Yeah, oh yeah.
It's unbelievable. Plus, you don't have the breakage if you were to use straight braid. Straight braid is not real abrasion resistance, but with fluorocarbon leaders, fluorocarbon is very abrasion resistant. And you get the same feel, probably better feel out of the braid fluorocarbon as you would monofilament or straight fluorocarbon.
So you're getting much longer casts.
Much longer.
Much better hook sets.
Yes.
Let's go ahead and rig a couple up and show me exactly how you do the FG knot.
First I start out with my braid, I basically put it around my pinky finger like that. Then I take my fluorocarbon and I tie a knot in the end of it because it slips out of my hands all the time as I pull up. So on this side of the line, face the side of the fluorocarbon, want it to face you. You go over over and under one side, over and under the next side, and you do that 22 times.
This side, this side.
Yeah, just keep switching sides.
Okay.
And on the Sunline sight, you can see the line, the knot actually in slow motion. Okay. So I have 4 wraps right there. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'll do 23 wraps on that. So 16 to 20 some odd, low 20s. And I'll lay the fluorocarbon parallel to the braid. Take my tag in, put it over, away from the body, over both lines, and just cinch it down. Cinch it down against my wraps. Do it a second time. In the Sunline schematic, it says 5 or 6 inches. I just do 2.
Okay.
And then I grab my line, I wet it, and I pull it tight. I'm going to set the knot. You set it almost to the breaking point. Then you grab your fluorocarbon end right when it comes out of the wraps and cut it as close as possible. Take your tag in and go over your braid twice, just like that. I grab my mouth. I pull all 3 lines. Then I cut my tag in. I cut it about 1/8 to 1/4 inch. Doesn't hurt nothing. I used to just cut it even, but there's a little slippage in your knot. So that little tag in gives you a little buffer. You know, basically it'll slip just so far and that's it. And it won't bother, it'll fray a little bit, but it won't bother the cast any.
How much are you going to go from your connection point? How much are you going to use?
Okay, I'll bring it all the way about halfway between the last eye and the spool, about right there, my connection point. Then I'll grab the fluorocarbon, I'll bring it right below my spool, my reel, and I'll cut it and she's ready to go.
On many of these line manufacturers, they'll recommend different knots. On this one, it actually says the Albright Knot. Now, Albright Knot works really well. One of the things I've noticed about the Albright Knot is that it has a little thicker knot than the FG knot that you're tying. What does that little bit thicker knot do to you?
The thicker the knot, the more it's going to hit your guides.
Yeah. By doing this particular knot, you get a little less resistance going through there.
Less resistance. I mean, I have tried all kind of knots. I've tried the Albright Knot. Whatever you feel is best for you and you tie and you have confidence in is a knot you should use. This just works for me, period.
Well, let's go catch a fish.
Let's do it.
Oh, here he is. Second that thing hit the water.
Second you threw out there?
Yeah.
Son of a gun. You need a net?
No, he's little. White bass. And I'll tell you what, that thing jumped. It was way out there. Had to make a real long cast. It's one thing Braid's really good for is long cast. I was able to get the cast right to it. Man, it smacked it as soon as it hit. This fish here is a little small. We're gonna throw this one back. He ain't quite big enough. Oh, what you got there?
A small one. He's real small. Is that a, that's a crappie.
You got you a crappie. Hey,
Yeah.
there you go. I don't believe that one's gonna quite be long enough, but you know what?
It's a pretty little crappie though.
White crappie, can't beat that.
1 or 2 years, right?
Yeah, I'd say you got about 1 or 2. Yeah.
1 or 2. Oh, they are. They're busting out there. They're busting. See them, see them, see them, see them?
Oh, yeah.
They're busting.
There you go.
Oh, there he is.
Got it?
Yeah.
That's a little better than the first one I caught.
Oh, yeah, he's better. He's just coming at me when he's doing that. Oh, yeah, he's a better fish.
You need a net?
I think we will. That's got a lot of trebles in it, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. There we go. I got it.
Nice. It's a pretty good one there, though. That's probably 13, 14-inch fish.
Yeah.
Well, Bill, I have to say, I've seen you tie this knot several times, and I've seen you catch a lot of fish on it. It works extremely well. I am convinced.
Yeah, Chad, it works for me, and I hope it works for a lot of other people.